All right, guys, welcome back to the stream. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome. If you are new, thank you guys so much for joining me today. And thank you for waiting patiently for the intro to finish up there. Today, we are talking about Bungie once again because it seems that there are some reports that I'm a little bit late to, which I will admit, but it was simply because I honestly couldn't cover it as it was happening. But there are multiple reports about Bungie, and the situation is not good. Saying I'm eating my mic way too loud. Is it too loud? Need some feedback. Is it too... Maybe it is too close to my face. There we go. All right, maybe that's a little bit better. My bad. I just pulled the mic over to my face, and I didn't really think about it. So sorry about that if I just basically screamed at you. But yeah, we need to talk about the situation with Bungie because it is pretty serious. We've been talking about Bungie for a little while now, and it's just been bad news after more bad news after even worse news. And it's really not good because this is one of the biggest investments, if not the biggest investment, that Sony or PlayStation has made into the brand. And it's actually very depressing to see how it's playing out for them. I mean, when you think about the worst case scenario, it seems like what we are looking at, if everything is about to unfold the way it seems like it's going to, this is going to end up actually being the worst case scenario, which absolutely sucks. But, will Sony be able to turn it around? Well, we'll talk about that, but I want to go over all this information with you and talk about it. Before we do that, though, Rufus, did I see the Sony Bend news? Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I don't know if I'm necessarily going to talk about that over the course of today's stream because I feel like we need more information first. I don't want to jump to any conclusions, but I did see what you're talking about. So listen, before we dive into going over this information, I want to just first thank everybody for watching the streams. If you're watching live, thank you for that support. If you are watching later on because you can't catch it live, thank you as well. Definitely means a lot. Do me a favor, guys, and hit that like button, okay? It's the easiest way for you to help the stream out and let me know that you enjoy the streams. We're sitting at 49 likes. I think we could easily get to 75 likes, maybe even 100. I'd really appreciate that, guys. Now, there are 3 ways you can support my content and my channel directly. I do rely on you guys to be able to do this. This channel is fan-funded. Those 3 ways are become a channel member, okay? If you become a channel member, you gain access to some exclusive perks. One of those exclusive perks is the Members Lounge, an exclusive place where me and members go to hang out and talk and do who knows what else. So if you're interested in that, please consider becoming a channel member. If you are already a channel member, please consider gifting channel memberships. It's a big thing we do here, and it gets the community involved, and it really helps out a lot. And last but not least, please consider donating a super chat. You can ask a question, give an opinion, make a statement, anything in between. It all helps tremendously. So thank you guys for all of your support. But we are starting off here. Let me see if this will actually work. Okay. We are starting here with this report from Aztec Cross, I guess his name is. I think he's like a popular Destiny Bungie person. But hold on, let me actually bring this up. But yeah, it says here, this was apparently, an anonymous email regarding tensions between Bungie and Sony, potential full takeover, and there's quite a bit to unpack here. So the email says, I'm writing this on a throwaway. Please use this info to corroborate other sources you may have. Internal perspective at Sony is very negative towards Bungie right now. It is seen as a failed investment, and strategies being discussed revolve more around recouping losses. One internal leader from the US is fighting to take over to right the ship, while many others across the Pacific want a much harsher method. So right off the bat here, if this email is to be believed, man, things are looking nightmarish for the Bungie Sony situation. According to the first paragraph of this email, it seems that somebody in the US sector of Sony is like, we should try to take over and right the ship. Apparently, over at Japan's HQ, Sony's Japan HQ, they want to do something much harsher, which, you know, it sounds not good. And we have actually Get Some Trismegistus coming in, kicking off the day by dropping a 5 bomb on you guys. 5 memberships gifted. Actually, thank you so much. Actually, I think you're going to be very happy because I have a new soundbite. I just have to remember which one it is here. Hold on, actually. I think this is it. You ready? Wait, did it play? Oh, wait, hold on. Hold on. I have to switch. Shit. Damn it. All right, actually, hold on. Listen, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to finish reading this, and when I go back to the regular... screw it. I'll just do it now.
Get some! But that was some fancy shit.
Did it not play?
You're pretty good.
Hold on. Fucking technical difficulties. I need to know if... it should have been a Helldivers 2 soundbite. Did it play? It didn't come across over my end, which is really annoying. Oh, I think I know why. Hold on. I'm going to try it one more time.
Get some!
It's still not working. Son of a bitch. If it's playing though, good. Good. That one's for you, actually. I added like 1 or 2 new sound bites, but for some reason they're not coming through on my end, even though they should. So forgive me if I seem a little bit confused, but actually thank you so much for dropping 5 membership gifts, man. Getting back to this leaked email. Yeah, so the first part of it, again, it's already looking like a complete nightmare scenario with Sony and Bungie. But it continues here by saying the former U.S. leader holds a lot of respect from overseas leadership, so it is likely he or she will get their way. That person's perspective is that there are many gluttonous executives at Bungie who are not doing their jobs and are hindering the organization. It is believed that the workers are skilled, but the leadership is unable to perform their duties. Bungie is in a hard spot because pre-order numbers are lower than anticipated. I apologize. I do not have the details on actual numbers. Sony believes that the finances will not allow Bungie to avoid a takeover even with another round of layoffs, as that would cannibalize development and future revenue. Overall, Sony has been very upset at Bungie's leadership. They have not been able to successfully advise Sony teams, and while Lightfall hit internal revenue targets, every target since has been missed at an escalating decline. So, okay, before I continue here, we have this, I'm assuming this source from inside Bungie or inside Sony giving us the information, basically saying that Bungie has failed to actually properly consult and oversee Sony's live service efforts. This is truly a depressing situation because if you think about the big reason why Sony paid $3.6 billion for Bungie, it was literally for that. It was, of course, it's for Destiny. It's for the development team, but it's for that talent, right? It's for that thing that I guess warrants such a high price. It's, hey, look, we want to make live service games. We want to find success doing this. And you guys seemingly have found that success. So can you please oversee our teams that are making these live service games and tell us if they're actually coming along well or not and if they're good? And it seems like Bungie wasn't even able to do that, which is maybe not too surprising when we look at the situation that occurred with The Last of Us multiplayer and the fact that it was in development for multiple years, probably well over $100 million invested into it, and that also seemingly collapsed. And one of the things we heard from Jason Schreier is apparently one of the reasons why the Last of Us multiplayer game was canceled, if not canceled, delayed, and was running into problems, was because Bungie basically is like, yeah, we're kind of worried about this game, bro. We're worried that you guys aren't really putting together a good live service game. And it's so depressing to think that the team that is now on the brink of collapse was somehow the one to come in and basically tell Naughty Dog what they are or are not doing correct. Pretty depressing. But let's finish up this email here. Where did I leave off? Sorry, there's no spaces here. Overall, Sony has been very upset with Bungie's leadership. They have not been able to successfully advise Sony teams, and while Lightfall... Okay, read that part already. Bungie leadership regularly schedules meetings with Sony leadership. Know that the next time slot can be months away. I hope this sheds light for the ongoings from Sony's side. It is believed that the takeover would allow Sony to turn Destiny into a more profitable game. This sounds bad, but it is being treated as lightning in a bottle. Sony's leadership wants to nurture the game and understand that more aggressive monetization would not be healthy. There would be a monetization model switch, though, as it is believed the current model is just too confusing. The main difference between the US leaders versus the Japan leaders getting their way matters more for Bungie's in-development titles. If Japan leadership gets their way, teams for future titles will be gutted and reformed. So this is the first report that we're going over here. I'm just going to focus on this before we move on to the second report. The second report actually comes from IGN that sheds, I think, a little bit more light on this. But yes, we don't know if this... sorry if that shit just played again, by the way.
You're pretty good.
Every time I switch over, it plays. I apologize. But yeah, we don't know if this is to be believed or not, right? Like, we don't know if this is exactly what's happening. This is, at the end of the day, an anonymous email that was given to a YouTuber, and the person sending the email even asked the YouTuber to corroborate this before reporting on it, but I guess this YouTuber decided to report on it anyway. But to be honest, this sounds 100% believable. There's not a single thing coming out of this email that tells me this isn't coming from internally at Sony. It sounds like the situation that we heard about a couple of months ago, where things are looking pretty shaky over there at Bungie, and Sony is not very happy. It seems like it's getting even worse. And what's most interesting about this is the kind of internal struggle that Sony is facing over Bungie's seeming collapse here, right? Sony is trying to decide, do we just stick to not necessarily the way things are, but basically not interfere with Bungie's future development projects, and instead just kind of come in there and figure out a way to make Destiny more profitable and alter that monetization. That is what the US side of Sony apparently wants to do, and they basically want to let Bungie just continue to handle, I guess, Marathon and whatever other projects they have. On the other hand, we have the Japan side of Sony saying, we want to completely gut these guys and just clean house and start over. And that's a pretty big deal, because that's like pretty much saying, like, we're done here, right? And we have Exley Get Some Trismegistus coming in and dropping another 5-bomb for you guys. Exley is keeping this membership train going today. Back-to-back 5 bombs. Exley, thank you so much for that, man. Really appreciate the continued support. You just brought us up to 10 members on the day. Guys, just a reminder, if we do hit our goal of 25 members, I will give you-know-who here behind me, who is sleeping, his you-know-whats. I don't dare say the actual names, lest he be awakened from his slumber. But yeah, actually, thank you so much for that, man. Really appreciate the continued support. And actually, really quick, I did forget to give a shout out. I meant to do this before I dived into the topics. Got to give a shout out to the top donors of the channel last week. We have Corey, the legend Landiga, coming in with the platinum. We have Hellbound at 1981 coming in with the gold. We have Chris B coming in with the silver. And then in bronze, we have Whiskey Gaming. Thank you guys so much for showing such big support last week. It means a lot. But getting back to the situation with Bungie here, the question I have for you guys, and I'll give my thoughts on this, is what do you think Sony should do here? Do you think Sony should listen to the US branch of Sony, or PlayStation, I mean, and basically just take over the monetization and the management of Destiny, but let Bungie just kind of continue doing what they're doing with Marathon and their current projects? Or do you side with the Japanese branch of Sony, where they're like, look, this is a failed investment. We need to gut this. We need to basically like just shut all this down and start over and see what we can possibly recoup here and interfere with the development of games like Marathon. And again, we're going to go over other projects that Bungie apparently has in the works. My thoughts on this, truthfully, is I think Sony, my view of this is I think Sony made a huge mistake buying Bungie, straight up. Like, I think Sony made a critical error in thinking that this is who they should have purchased. And I will admit I was totally wrong. I think I just got kind of caught up in the excitement of it when it was first announced. I was basically like, yeah, this is great. Sony is responding and Sony's making their own acquisitions. And to be honest, at the time, it really didn't seem that bad because it's like, it's Bungie, right? Bungie knows what they're doing. It's Destiny. You can't go wrong. And it has been very depressing over the past couple of years to just see, like, actually, it can go very wrong and it can go very poorly. And yeah, maybe we were thinking of old Bungie and we just had no idea. Seems like Sony didn't even have any idea of not the development troubles, but the management troubles, the revenue troubles that Bungie was facing. And now they know. Now they definitely know. And so my whole feeling on this is that I think Sony just made a huge mistake buying these guys. And I'm not saying they should like dissolve Bungie necessarily or anything like that, but this idea of just completely like, you guys don't know what you're doing and we're just going to have to completely absorb you and run the ship ourselves from top to bottom. I mean, that kind of makes sense, but at the same time though, I do try to consider the fact that maybe the developers at Bungie are actually very talented, right? Like there seems to be this kind of sentiment that the people making the game know what they're doing. They know what they're doing. They're good at what they do. And we should just leave that, like that's the talent. But the people managing this studio are just totally fucked. Like they don't know what they're doing. They're messing everything up. And they're the reason why they're about to collapse. So if that really is the case, it's difficult for me to determine that because I don't really play Destiny. I just see so much negative feedback for Destiny. I see how little excitement there seems to be for the final expansion. It makes me think that, I guess the real question does lie in what is Marathon going to do? It seems like Destiny is done. There's just not much else they can do, but it seems like it's going to come down to like, is Marathon really going to be impressive? But look, we have another article here, another report that came out. This is from IGN, where I know that the title's cut off, but once I scroll down, it's not going to be cut off. IGN is saying here, organization. Bungie replaces Marathon director amid leadership shakeup, fears of layoffs. So if we go down here, let me move this over so you guys can see. There we go. And so amid ongoing anxiety within Bungie following layoffs last year, the studio is now preparing for another shakeup, this time on Marathon, its upcoming service game intended as its next step beyond Destiny. According to multiple sources familiar with the matter, Bungie is in the midst of shifting around its creative leadership on Marathon, including removing longtime Bungie designer Christopher Barrett from the game director role. IGN learned he is being replaced by former Valorant game director Joe Ziegler, who left Riot Games for Bungie in 2022. IGN has reached out to Bungie for comment on whether or not Barrett will remain with the company. Bungie has not yet responded to IGN's request for comment, but shortly after we reached out, Ziegler confirmed his appointment as game director on X. For the last 9 months, I've been working on Marathon as the game director, he wrote. We're still baking, but I'm excited to share with you more info in the game as we get closer and closer to bringing it to all of you. So, confirmation here that there was a leadership shakeup on Marathon, which tells me that development of Marathon is not going well. It's not going ideally, because if it was, there wouldn't be a need for the director of the game to be replaced or changed. That's never a good sign for a game. It's always very concerning. It says here, while this is going on, sources tell IGN that Bungie is pouring resources into getting Marathon out the door. The game's direction has shifted somewhat under Ziegler's new leadership, one source says, including moving away from custom player characters in favor of a selectable cast of heroes. Wow. The more I read here, the more I'm like, you know what? Sony Japan, do what you got to do. Drop the hammer. Bring it down, because this does not sound good to me. I'm sorry. This just sounds terrible. You're telling me that you're bringing back Marathon, but you're changing a core part of it that makes it what it is, where you're not going to have custom characters. Instead, we're going to have a cast of heroes. That's what we need? Really, Bungie? That's what you think people want and what we need? We need another hero shooter that's probably just going to end up being a cringe fest that everybody rolls their eyes at and says Destiny was better than this, and Destiny wasn't even that good by the end. It's like, I'm sorry, man. It really is starting to seem like to me that Bungie doesn't know what they're doing. I'll be honest. Like, I'm really starting to get that feeling that Bungie, I don't want to say that they were never as good as we thought they were. It's just that they've changed too much over time. Like, this is not the Bungie from the Microsoft era making, the beloved Halo games that people remember fondly. This might not even be the same Bungie that made Destiny in 2014. Like, maybe there's some remnants of that, but we are just looking at a different Bungie that is trying to move beyond Destiny, and they seemingly don't know what to do or what they're doing. And there's just so much working against them here. To me, this sounds like a death rattle. I don't mean to sound so harsh, but any interest I had in Marathon went out the fucking window with this report that they're going to bring a selectable cast of, let me guess, lovable and unique and zany heroes, or whatever the fuck it's going to be. It just sounds cringe to me, man. Like, I'm not digging it. I'm not digging the vibe whatsoever. But let's continue here. It says here, while upcoming Destiny 2 expansion, The Final Shape, is also being prioritized, there are growing fears and rumors that layoffs will immediately follow its release. One person with knowledge of budgets at Bungie told me that nothing adds up and something will need to happen to curb costs unless The Final Shape does so well to cover the gap and people can move to Marathon. So, again, like, you have a development team over there at Bungie that is going into work every day trying to make the Final Shape expansion the absolute best it can be, literally fearing for their job every day, wondering as soon as this thing wraps up. Sorry for the camera freeze, by the way. I still don't know why it's doing that. Literally fearing every day, well, once we ship this thing, am I jobless now? Like, am I done here? The environment that they're making this Final Shape expansion, it's like, look, man, I know diamonds are made under pressure, but it just seems like the pressure here is insurmountable. It's too overwhelming. And again, it says here that when it comes to the costs of everything, the only way that this is going to end up making sense for the development team and to prevent mass layoffs again is the Final Shape is going to have to do extremely well, like unrealistically well. And it's safe to say that that's not going to happen. But let's continue on here. When Sony acquired Bungie, the studio brought with it a number of other incubation projects, including a MOBA-like game codenamed Gummy Bears and a new IP known as Matter. According to sources, Matter was canceled back in 2020, but the team continued working on a similar project with slightly different directions until that too was canceled in late 2022. Gummy Bears, meanwhile, is currently in a holding pattern due to ongoing company struggles. So, as we can see, if you're understanding what we're reading here, basically what IGN is reporting is that the only actual game that Bungie has is Marathon, and anything else is just so far from being an actual thing. It's just not realistic to bank on that. And this is crazy to be like, Sony had to have known this, right? Right? Like, this is what's kind of crazy to me. And let me see here. We have Exley get some Trismegistus. He's doing the heavy lifting today. Exley is doing the heavy lifting, guys. Exley drops another 5 bomb for you guys. That's 15 memberships gifted by Exley alone. He's doing it. He wants to get us up to the goal of 25. So he brings us up to 15. Add that. Yeah, I think one more there. Exley, thank you so much, man. Really appreciate that. I know you're doing it for the soundbite. I know you love that soundbite. Really appreciate you doing that heavy lifting for the community, actually. But holy shit, dude. Like, this is crazy. So, let me get this straight. When Sony bought Bungie, and let me take a step back here, because I said Sony had to have known about this. Well, let's see. When Sony bought Bungie, they had Marathon in development. They had this Gummy Bears project, which was a MOBA-like game, and a new IP known as Matter. I'm telling you, they probably sold Sony on all this shit. Like, wait till you see what we got cooking. We got these amazing games in development. And so it's like, yeah, this is going to be great. And now, like, all this shit's either canceled or in a holding pattern. And all they really have is Marathon. And Marathon, it sounds like they don't know what they're doing. This is a nightmare scenario, dude. And we have Hellbound 1981, another legend coming in, dropping another 5 bomb on you guys. Let's get some W's flowing in the chat for both Exley and Hellbound. That's another 5 memberships gifted. That brings us up to 20 members on the day. Hellbound, thank you so much. I know what Hellbound wants. He wants us to get to that 25 mark so we can give you-know-who his... Oops, sorry about that. His you-know-whats. And we're just 5 away, guys. We're just 5 away from crushing the first goal. Thank you so much for all the support. Really appreciate it, guys. It says here, within the company, there is a growing expectation. Well, hold on now. Hold on. Because Exley's doing it. Exley's doing it today, guys. I'm going to continue with this, but I got to acknowledge Exley just crushed the goal. Exley dropped 20 memberships in total to get us to 25. I know Hellbound's excited. Good shit, dude. Let me make sure this plays. Hold on. Every time we hit a goal, I got something I want to play. There you go. That's Boss thanking you guys. Thanking you for crushing a goal of 25 members. I'm going to update that now. Really appreciate that, actually. Let me update the goal. We'll continue with this article. Just bear with me for 1 second here. And there we go. Good stuff, guys. Good stuff. Did that come through, by the way? Did you guys... Did you hear, Boss? I think for some people that's their first time seeing that. I hope you enjoyed it. I told you guys that's what Boss sounds like. And I'll give him his snacks in a couple minutes. I'll finish up these articles that we're going over, and then I'll give him his snacks. He's sleeping very peacefully. But yeah, that's what Boss sounds like. That's him saying thanks. All right, before I stray too far here. It says here, within the company, there is a growing expectation that senior company leadership will leave in droves in the summer of 2026 when the final payouts from Sony's acquisition of the company take effect. With this in mind, there's a strong push to get Marathon out the door before then and let whoever takes the reins after that, be it Sony or Bungie, worry about how it's sustained. Holy shit. This, to me, this is the death rattle. When I say Bungie is collapsing, this right here is exactly what I'm talking about, where you have the leadership inside of Bungie, they don't want to move. They don't want to leave because they have a vested interest here, money, right? If you stay till 2026, you're going to get a massive payout. You're going to be rich, basically. And the goal is you got to get Marathon out the door before then. And it's basically just this idea, like, get this shit finished, get it out the door. We get our paycheck. We're out. Sorry, Sony. This is your fucking problem now. You can see why the Japan HQ at Sony is like, fuck these guys. Get them out of here. You can see why Sony Japan is like, this is some bullshit. Now, to be fair, this does fall on Sony, though. Sony didn't have to buy Bungie. They didn't have to agree to this, and they didn't also have to agree to these types of payouts, or at least to this extent. And this is everything, this is everything that we kind of talked about at the time when Sony purchased Bungie. One of the biggest parts about it was like over $1 billion was set aside for like developer retention. Basically, if you don't leave the company and you stay at Bungie, and you stay for a certain amount of time, you can basically become extremely rich. And that's exactly what's going on here. So again, the nightmare only gets worse when you read stuff like this because, we're seemingly looking at a situation where the leadership at Bungie, their hearts are not in the right place, right? It seems like they are making poor decisions. They don't know what they're doing, but they also don't want to step down and they don't want to leave because they're not going to get rich and make all their money if they do that. And so it seems like they're just barely trying to stop themselves from collapsing. But Sony's over here like, you guys are collapsing. We need to do something. And it's unbelievable. It is. It's very sad, and it's unbelievable to think that this is where Bungie is now. And I kind of feel bad. I mean, I feel bad for the devs at Bungie. Obviously, I feel bad for Bungie themselves and what may happen to the studio. But you also got to feel a little bit bad for Sony, where it's like, I mean, for a fact when Sony bought Bungie, this is not at all what they thought was going to happen. If you go back and you read the interview with Jim Ryan and Herman Hulst, the level of excitement they had when they bought Bungie, you could feel it. It was radiating. They were like, yes, we feel like we made a great acquisition. We feel like we made a great purchase, and we feel like it's only going to get better from here. And now we are sitting here reading a situation where they are on the verge of collapse, and Sony is basically panicking, trying to figure out, like, what do we do with this? How do we save this? How do we salvage this? How do we not lose all of our money on this investment? But let's continue here because there's still more to this article. IGN actually doing some pretty good reporting here, which is nice to see. All right. A marathon and a sprint. Bungie has found itself rocked by a number of major shakeups in recent years and have tanked morale at the Destiny studio and left its future uncertain. Sony officially acquired the studio in mid-2022 with the promise it would largely retain a semblance of freedom as an independent subsidiary. While sources say that's largely remained true, Bungie has struggled to meet key financial targets. Destiny 2 significantly underperformed last year. And we have MASH coming in. MASH! I'm not sure, man. I feel like this might be your first, maybe it's your first time gifting memberships, or if you did, maybe it was a while ago, but MASH coming in, keeping the membership train rolling along today, dropping a 5-bomb for you guys, following up Exley and Hellbound. Let's get some W's flowing in the chat for our good friend MASH here for doing that. Thank you, man. You just brought us up to 30 members on the day. Really appreciate what you're doing for the channel, guys. Good stuff.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'm really annoyed that my sound bites are not playing for me. I'll play a snake
Kept
there
you
for
waiting,
you.
huh?
In October, Bungie laid off roughly 100 of its 1,200 employees amid greater cost-cutting measures that saw Marathon delayed to 2025 and employee benefits slashed, further damaging the mood internally. Notably, multiple sources at the time and since have shared that Sony has largely left the studio to sort out its own troubles and was not responsible for the layoffs, with CEO Pete Parsons taking responsibility. However, sources at the time also told IGN when leaders were asked if they had considered taking pay cuts prior to making layoff decisions, one responded that Bungie was not that type of company. Internally, the sentiment is only growing that the final shape needs to succeed for Bungie to avoid further internal turmoil. So, yeah, just kind of the end of this article here, just basically refreshing us on what we already knew regarding Bungie and the situation. And yeah, man, the internal email that leaked, it seems to me like it is believable because we're getting reports from IGN as well that they're in contact with somebody at Bungie, and it seems like these things are lining up. And so just as a little recap here, the leaked email basically says that there's a tug of war, a little bit of strife inside of Sony, the US branch versus the Japanese branch, where the US branch wants to just take over Destiny's monetization and let Bungie figure out the rest. And the Japanese branch wants to completely take over, right the ship, and I don't know if the term like gut them is necessarily the most appropriate, but that's the one that kind of comes to mind. And now we are getting this follow-up report from IGN that's basically saying, like, look, if you look over there internally at Bungie, Matter is canceled. This Project Gummy Bear game is, they say it's in a holding pattern, but it just seems like it's not going anywhere. And Marathon has a new director and is taking a new direction because of that. That sounds like it's, I don't know, less than ideal. And on top of that, we're learning that the higher-ups at Bungie essentially just want to push Marathon out the door, get their paycheck, and leave. And just, hey, Sony, Bungie, you guys can fucking deal with Marathon. So, yeah, it's absolute nightmare fuel here. Matt York, a member for 25 months, says Madison VR is set to release on March 28th, upcoming Thursday, after countless delays. I hope the game turns out well. Been waiting a while for this one. Yeah, Matt, you've been talking to me about Madison VR, and I'm glad to hear that it's finally coming now. And I'm hoping for the best too. Hopefully it doesn't get delayed. And you guys have been recommending that I give this a shot, maybe even in VR. We'll see. We'll see if I can get around to it. Right now I'm playing Rise of the Ronin. I still have Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and of course Stellar Blade is coming up next month. So we'll see, man. I feel like I'm drowning in games here. Really enjoying Rise of the Ronin, by the way. Maybe I'll talk more about that in an upcoming stream dedicated to it. But the more I'm playing Rise of the Ronin, the more I'm enjoying it. So I got to ask you guys. I got to ask you, what are you thinking about this situation with Bungie? You know, like, is this... I have another article here, by the way. Hold on. This is from Forbes, actually. Is this, do you think this is as bad as it really sounds? Or do you think that Sony can recover from this? Do you think Bungie can recover from this? Do you think that Bungie is going to be able to turn it around with the Final Shape expansion? These are just questions that are popping up in my head, in my mind. We don't have answers to them necessarily, but I don't know, man. I'm leaning more towards this whole thing is just a fucking mess, and this whole thing was a mistake. All right, so this was written up by Paul Tassi. This will be the last article we read. It'll be a closer for going over the actual information before we just dive deeper into my more opinionated thoughts here. It says, in the wake of significant Marathon news revealed by both an IGN article and a tweet from the game's new director trying to get ahead of that IGN article, there's additional news about the state of Bungie and Destiny 2 as a whole. And as it has the last few times we've gotten reports like this, things are sounding especially bleak. The article by Rebecca Valentine should be read in full here. The most important worrisome bits are below. Breaking news to the already on edge community and already on edge workers at Bungie. I feel like I need to put my freaking glasses on here, man. There are fears that there will be further layoffs past the 100 plus cuts that already happened last fall in the wake of the final shape. Someone with knowledge of budgets at Bungie says that nothing is adding up, and there's an immense amount of pressure on the final shape to deliver and fill the gap to Marathon. And then, of course, Marathon itself needs to be a hit. Nothing is mentioned about the longer-term plan for Destiny past the episodes already announced. I'll note that this is pretty unusual for someone that high up with that much knowledge of Bungie's financials to talk for an article like this. Bungie has had struggles with Matter, a previously conceived incubation game that was canceled in 2020, then revived, then canceled again in 2022. They're still making a game codenamed Gummy Bears, but that's on pause due to everything that's happening in the company. Bungie's much derided leadership, did I say that right? Is reportedly likely going to leave in the summer of 2026 once Sony's final payout from the acquisitions come in. It's unclear whether this may be the moment that Sony takes over to run the company, as previously rumored. The current bosses allegedly want to get Marathon out the door and leave it to someone else to sustain it from there. This aligns with the long-running pattern of poor behavior from Bungie bosses who have frequently been the target of ire from players, Bungie devs, and even Sony, who is displeased with how things have been going. So yeah, I mean, I to be honest, I thought that there was more with this article, but that serves as, like, I guess, a good summarization of the whole situation here. So you're going to hear a couple sound bites play. All right, don't panic. Don't panic.
Get some! But that was some fancy shooting. You're pretty good.
Okay, so we're back over here. Yeah, I think that when we first started hearing reports about the situation with Bungie a couple of months ago, I think a lot of people thought, you know, maybe this is a bit inflated, right? Like maybe this is a bit over exaggerated. And then the layoffs happened and it's like, okay, well, maybe that was just necessary because everybody's suffering layoffs and it's happening all across the industry. But it's been weeks, it's been months, and the situation has seemingly only eroded further. And my hope, so let me just kind of get into my thoughts here. I mean, I know I've been giving my thoughts, but let me really kind of focus on them here. My hope is that Sony just lets this shit go because I don't think there's any hope for Bungie. I do think that they are going to collapse no matter what. I think they just have way too many factors working against them. I think when you consider that there's this unrealistic pressure for the final shape to be the biggest and best expansion that's ever been released for this game, but the development team is working on it under circumstances knowing that you might not be here as soon as this ships, right? Also working under circumstances where the leadership at Bungie is making just horrible, selfish decisions, where it's very clear that they're just in it for themselves and they're not in it for the dev team, right? And then you also factor in that everything is, okay, let's say the final shape doesn't really do that well, which again, it's looking like it's not going to do that well. Then we look over to Marathon. It's like, okay, well, maybe Marathon will turn the ship around. And it's like, well, you know what? There's only been bad news about Marathon. There has not been any good news about Marathon. I just want that to be known, right? Even when it was revealed, I think a lot of people were like, whoa, the next big thing from Bungie. No actual gameplay. It was like, you know, a CG trailer. And I think for that moment, that was good enough. But then not too long after that, we heard that apparently Bungie had brought playtesters in, or not playtesters, but popular streamers. And it was a really early build of the game. But they basically asked them, like, you know, how many of you would play this tomorrow? And like nobody raised their hand. And everybody's like, that wasn't very good. Like essentially, our takeaway from that information is that this game wasn't very good. It wasn't very compelling. It wasn't that fun. And now we are finding out that the director of Marathon was replaced, and now it's changing into a hero shooter. And it's just like, to me, it's very clear that this is over. This is over. this company, this development team has collapsed, and Sony is responsible for them now. And that to me is depressing because Sony didn't have to have anything to do with this. They didn't have to have anything to do with Bungie other than maybe their marketing agreement with Destiny. They could have marketed Marathon, but I guess at the time, Sony felt like the right decision is to pay $3.6 billion for this brand, for this company, for these games. And it seems like it's going to go down as one of the all-time worst investments that PlayStation has ever made. And that, to me, is truly the depressing factor here. I mean, don't get me wrong. Again, it's depressing if you're a Bungie fan, if you're a Destiny fan, if you're looking forward to Marathon. All of this is depressing. But as a PlayStation fan, as somebody who, wants to see Sony do well with their internal studios and their management, this is depressing. It is. We have Street Shadow coming in saying, MBG, we should be careful not to fall into the media trap. Things might not be great, but Destiny 2 always has this cycle. If the DLC drops, things will calm down. There's even free DLC in 2 weeks. And that's true too. I've been very harsh, I would say, during this entire conversation. It's just how I naturally feel. But you are right. Like, I don't want to make it sound like there's no chance. I know that's exactly what I'm making it sound like. And maybe, truthfully, that is what I feel. But it is possible, right? It is possible that the media could be not making things sound worse than they are, but just, they're reporting based off of what they're hearing. And these are not official statements from Bungie. It's time to give Boss his snacks. Hold on. There you go, boss. Enjoy. These are not official statements from Bungie. And as we saw, the new games director is trying to get out ahead of it. And so Street Shadow, is there a chance that the final shape could come out? It could turn things around. It could win over Destiny 2 players again, kind of give it the much needed shot in the arm it needs. Yeah, I think there's a chance. But I think what's making that difficult for me to have faith in is the fact that, again, the development team is like seemingly scared shitless that they just, they're at odds with the leadership, and the leadership is just looking after themselves, and they have to try to make this incredible final expansion knowing that at any moment their heads could roll, and that, to me, again, it's not impossible, but it's creating very, very difficult circumstances that I do think is very likely to create an even worse kind of snowballing of this situation. And I think that, to me, is because you're saying things will calm down. We'll see. Because here's the thing, right? Like, when this DLC drops for Destiny 2, if these reports are true, if it really does underperform, like it's not making the cut here. It's like not making enough revenue. No chance. Then we're going to see more layoffs like immediately after. And to me, that's going to be the opposite of calming things down. We see more layoffs after. That's going to show, I think, that, oh shit, okay, these reports were true. And it's going to make Sony and Bungie look even worse because both of them have already suffered mass layoffs. And then if there's even more after that, it's going to be like, holy shit, what is going on over there? And I guess it really will truly come down to final shape performance. I think the difference between Sony really coming in and cleaning house entirely and rebooting Bungie entirely versus letting them still kind of take care of it themselves and get Marathon out the door, I think it does come down to the final shape performance. If it really loses them that much money, I could see, because again, we have to understand Sony's CFO, Hiroki Totoki, he's the CFO of all of Sony. He's going to be the one evaluating this. And if it really underperforms that severely, yeah, I could see him basically convincing the board of Sony, like, we're done. Like, we're done. This is going to, like, this company is, this is a failed investment and they're just bleeding us money now. I could see that happening. And again, that's not me trying to be overly negative. It's just, I'm trying to be realistic in that we're dealing with, you know, $1 billion corporation that spent $3.6 billion on this acquisition that was expected to make them a boatload of money and also allow their other development teams to succeed with their live service. And the exact opposite is happening. So we'll see, man. But Street Shadow, thank you for the super chat, buddy. We have Fred Vance, Fred ADHD Vance, member for 46 months. Fred, thank you so much, man. I got to give you a big shout out. 46-month membership. That's ride or die, bro. Thank you. You're saying it sounds like Marathon showed how creatively bankrupt the leadership is. At least this is how it seems, in my opinion. Yeah, that's another thing too. Is Marathon is not a new IP, and Marathon, it is apparently going to be an extraction shooter, and like that is. God bless you. Boss just sneezed all over my face. Thank you for that, man. The fact that they were like, let's do an extraction shooter, I think you're right. I think that shows that they are somewhat creatively bankrupt, because that to me is just chasing the trend. Yeah, a hero-based one too, which is like, what? Bro, are you okay? Do you guys see this? He's like violently sneezing in my face. Take it easy. Take it easy, boss. And the whole thing with the extraction shooter is like, you know, it went from battle royale to now the new thing is extraction shooters. And it's pretty clear that extraction shooters are not the follow-up to battle royale. Like, they're not that popular. They're fine. I don't have a problem with extraction shooters. I don't think anybody really does, but it's like, it's not the big money-making machine seemingly that everybody thought it was going to be. And it seems like Bungie basically with Marathon was completely banking on it actually being the next big thing. Maybe they could usher in that age. Again, I don't want to say it's not possible, but it just sounds like there's so much going against it. Boss, please don't chew my mic. That coffee's not for you, boss. I don't know why you're going over to it, acting like you're going to drink it. But Fred, I do think you might be right. I think that, you know, Bungie, to be honest, it seems like they definitely peaked. And I think that they know that they peaked. I think that Destiny 2, maybe the end of Destiny 1, maybe, again, I never really played Destiny, so I don't, you guys can tell me, if there's any Destiny players here, you can tell me when you think the best moments were for Destiny 1 and 2. Like, was it the first game? Was it the second game? What years? What seasons? I don't know, but I do feel like that came and that went, where they had their best moments with their big IP, that being Destiny, after, you know, again, delivering Halo up until I think Reach for Microsoft. And so between those, you know, those peak Halo years and then the peak Destiny years, it just seems like they're in that position where it's like, all right, what do we do now? Like, how do we one up ourselves now? How do we deliver something that's not going to fail? You know, because Bungie has garnered a pretty hefty reputation after all this time. And that reputation, it's it's the same type of reputation that I think a lot of high-end studios have, which is like, you guys have to deliver something great. Not something good, certainly not something mediocre, something great. Bungie peaked with the Witch Queen, in your opinion, Irfan? I feel like the reputation has soured in recent years. It's gotten, you know, it's taken some hits, and I think all of this is really, maybe it could be the final nail in the coffin. Reach has been their peak, you think? Interesting. And that's the thing. Halo was huge. Destiny was huge. So the next thing that Bungie creates has to be huge. Because if it's not, then they have fallen. You know, they have regressed. And I remember when Sony acquired Bungie, there were people that were worried that, like, man, like, is this a bad acquisition? Like, is Bungie's heyday over? Are their best years ahead of them as a studio? And, like, maybe, again, I don't want to say it's impossible. Here's another angle, though, that I haven't talked about yet. What happens if Sony does completely take over? What does a completely Sony-driven Bungie look like? Now, that could be interesting. That could be our worst nightmare. And, like, holy shit, we didn't think it could get worse, but it actually did because Sony has no fucking clue what they're doing with the studio. That could be what happens. Or it could be better, right? Maybe, I don't know, maybe the US side of Sony does know what they're doing. Like, maybe they are the best way forward for Bungie, where it's like, look, we just need to get rid of the shit leadership. If we get rid of the shit management and the shit leadership, we keep the talent because these devs know what they're doing. We get better leadership and management in there, and we can turn this around. Maybe. Like, maybe. I'm just trying to see it from all angles here. But Boss, are you okay, dude? I feel like Boss might be getting like a little cold or something. He just like dug his nose into the crook of my arm. He never does that. And he's been sneezing. Too many snacks? Is that what it is? Is it too many snacks, Boss? What is it? Devil 47, yeah. Yeah, maybe we don't listen because of that. We have DJ Bruntmeyer, member for 9 months. Thank you for that, buddy. You're saying secretly MBG was one of the playtesters for Marathon. Uh-oh. How'd you know? How'd you know? No, I would have been, that would have been awesome. Well, I wouldn't have been able to talk about it, but that would have been awesome. But no, I have no idea what Marathon is like, dude. And something tells me that whatever version of Marathon that these streamers played, something tells me that it's just a completely different game now. We have Who the Hell is Carlos? Excuse me. Member for 4 months says, hey, bro, I'm considering joining the Air Force as a military photographer. Any tips? Sorry for going off topic. I'm just on the fence about this. Love your vids. Who the hell is Carlos? I'll be honest with you, man. I don't have a single tip for you other than maybe the only tip I could give you is do your research, look into it. Because, dude, that is the most random milestone chat, and I have no military experience. Certainly not in the Air Force. I don't have any experience with photography. So I don't know if there's some confusion or if like you thought maybe that I mean my father was in the military, but he was not Air Force. Maybe that's where the confusion lies. But my recommendation is, it sounds like a pretty serious life decision. Definitely look into it. Do some research, and take it from there. Well, let me tell you, I played a lot of Call of Duty and Battlefield in my day. So, but you know what? I can't even say that I use photo mode in games because I don't. Garrett says, I'm a photographer, but I would never recommend going to the military. Oh, yeah. I mean, that's the big thing. Choosing to join the military, that's a huge life decision. It's going to be life changing. Definitely research, look into it. Don't make a decision like that abruptly. Think about it. Will there be a Dying Light 3? Probably at some point. Another random question, but yeah, I think there'll be a Dying Light 3. Yeah, dude, that's so funny you mentioned that. Maybe you're asking this question. Did you join my stream yesterday when I was streaming Rise of the Ronin? I was struggling with some of those photos I had to take. There's a mission where you have to take some photos. I didn't fail it, but I was struggling with it. But anyway, MRPD is saying, will I ever find love, MBG? No, you won't. Sorry. You'll find something else, but not love. I'm sorry, MRPD. Sorry you had to find out this way. Devlock, you're saying Bungie can fix things, but it may not be worth the time it takes to fix them. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. There is a cost associated with this. Resource cost, the whole thing. And Sony already paid $3.6 billion for them. So, yeah, I'm not so sure, man. Matt, I'm not touching that, bro. Matt, that's bait. That's absolutely bait right there. What is this, Twitter? Swift Guyver comes in, member for 5 months, and says, if Firewalk hits it big with Concord, do you think Sony could merge some of the Bungie talent with that team? Both based in Bellevue, Washington. Yes, actually, that's a really great point that I didn't think about. Concord is apparently, if it doesn't get delayed, it's set to launch this year. And there are a lot of former Bungie devs working at Firewalk. And Firewalk is a first-person shooter. It's a PvP shooter. It sounds like it might be a hero-based shooter, which makes me nervous because I'm just not a fan of the hero-based stuff. But, we don't have that confirmed yet. We'll have to wait and see. But that's, yeah, I could see that situation playing out. If Concord does hit and Concord could, if it has a lot of potential, I don't know if it's going to be like a huge hit out of the gate, but if it has a lot of potential, and Bungie's situation just continues to erode, and here's the question, could Concord be better than Marathon? Okay, no. That's Bad Cat. Bad Cat. Chewing my freaking router. Come on, bro. I need that. I need that to stream. That's my question. Will Concord be better? Could it be better than Marathon? And if the answer to that is it turns out that Concord is going to be better than Marathon, then I think yes. I think the situation that you just presented, that scenario where Sony could say, you know what, we're pulling a lot of dev talent from Bungie and we're putting them over on to Firewalk. And they probably get along just well because they're just fine. Because again, Firewalk is made up of mostly former Bungie devs. It's really, really interesting situation Sony finds themselves in right now. They have like old developers from Bungie working on a new game. They have all of Bungie working on a new game. My whole thing with this, so here's what's weird to me about this situation from the Sony side is everything we're hearing kind of makes it sound like Sony didn't have some kind of backup plan. Like that Sony didn't consider the fact that like, well, what if this fails? What if this goes south? What if this doesn't work out? And it almost makes it sound like Sony, they're in a position where like, I don't know, what do we do? And to me that, I mean, I'm not saying it isn't believable. Maybe it is very believable, but it just seems weird to me where it's like, how could you not go into this with some kind of potential backup plan? And that's the thing. I guess it's kind of a question. Like, does Sony actually have a backup plan here? Could Firewalk be that backup plan? Jim Ryan went in hard with no clue. Dude, you know what's so weird is like, today, I don't know if you guys saw this. If you check my Twitter account, Sony released a digital Jim Ryan bobblehead. Let me see if I can bring it up real quick. You guys got to see this. To me, this confirms that that Jim Ryan, left on good terms because they literally made this guy a collectible. If you're part of the what is it, the PlayStation All Stars, I think. Son of a bitch! Why? This streaming software frustrates me sometimes, man. I'm sorry. All I wanted to do was bring up a picture, and it's like not letting me. I have no idea why. Here, maybe I can. No. Anyway, if you follow me on Twitter, go check it out. It's pretty funny looking. I'm just saying, like, do you really make a digital bobblehead collectible of a person that you fired or that you asked to leave? I don't think so. I have a question. You saying it looked horrific? How many of you are going to collect this? How many of you are going to collect this Jim Ryan bobblehead? I'm still trying to see if I can get this picture up so you can see it. It's still not there. Dude, I swear, this streaming software frustrates the hell out of me sometimes. What's that? You just want to put a picture on screen to show people? Sorry. Not going to be able to make that happen. Whatever. You guys will just have to look it up. I'm sorry. True Witty, you're saying, why do you think Bungie will be taken over by Sony? Well, because based off of the reports that we're getting, in 2026, which is not that far from now, in 2026, the executives at Bungie, the C-suite at Bungie, like the management, they're going to be getting their massive payout that they were promised for staying with Sony for a certain amount of time after the acquisition. And they're going to be rich. And they're going to take that money and they're going to run. And Marathon may or may not be released by then. But regardless, they're basically just the management is just throwing the game at Bungie, the remainder of those who are going to be there, and Sony, and saying, this is your problem now. And so I guess what I'm trying to say is that it's not so much that I think they're going to be taken over, it's that I think Sony might have no choice. Because think of it this way. Why hasn't Sony already tried to be more like, we need to take hold of this right now? It could be because of the strife between Sony US and Sony Japan. It could be because of that, but it also could just be that, like, they already have a lot of shit to manage. You know, like, they already have to manage all of their regular studios outside of Bungie, and it's a lot. So I'm sure it's not something they want to have to take on, because again, it's like, okay, now your problem is our problem. And again, this is where it's like, when Sony purchased Bungie, it seems pretty clear to me that, like, this is the last thing Sony thought they were going to have to deal with. They thought, if there's one thing we don't have to worry about, is Bungie managing their live service game. And literally, here we are now. Sony now has to worry about Bungie managing their live service game. Crazy shit, man. So thank you for the super chat, True Witty. We also have Michael Stanbrook with a very generous super chat here. Thank you for that, buddy. You're saying here, I got back into Destiny 2 last summer and have been playing weekly since. I don't understand the negativity towards Bungie. There's so much content and things to do in the game. Even the upcoming events are free for everyone. If I had to guess, Michael, like, for me, I can only speak for me, like, where my negativity comes from. My negativity comes from the fact that at this point in time, I don't know why Sony thought they should buy this developer. You know, I've seen Sony make acquisitions that I thought were great, that I celebrated. Other acquisitions, I was like, okay, I'm sure that'll make sense. But when when it comes to the Bungie acquisition, again, at first I had excitement, and I was kind of, I guess, in the same boat that Sony was, where I was like, this can only be a good thing, right? And ever since we caught wind, like, for me, truthfully, the negativity towards Bungie skyrocketed, because I was totally indifferent to Bungie, truthfully. Like, I don't play Destiny. I played a little bit I played Destiny 1 for a little while at launch. I played Destiny 2 for a little while at launch, but I never really stuck with the game. I never had a problem with it. I just was like, I just don't think this is the game for me, like it is for a lot of other people. But what really did it for me, Michael, is when we heard that apparently The Last of Us multiplayer is not getting the green light because of Bungie's evaluation. That made me go, oh, hold on now. But somebody recommended to me, they were like, listen, you gotta go listen to Bungie talk about their philosophy on game development, on live service game development. It was like a GDC talk they did, I think. And I remember reacting to it on stream, and all of the things that they were saying where they're like quantity over quality and don't be afraid to fail. And like, I get it. Maybe in live service, like some of the stuff they were saying does actually make sense. But I was like, this all sounds like bad advice. Like if not bad advice, just certainly not good advice for Naughty Dog or most of Sony Studios. And it was the combination of those two things that for me, I was like, holy shit, I think Sony may have made a very bad purchase here. Where, look, not even shitting on Bungie, because again, I don't engage with Bungie or even their business practices. I've heard people complain about how expensive their expansions are, how it's just too much. I've seen plenty of videos of people complaining about Bungie, but I just never really cared because I'm like, well, maybe that's kind of normal for all live service games. Or like, there's always going to be some kind of major complaint, something that people don't like. Michael, you're saying you're just speaking on behalf of Destiny only. And yeah, that part of it is tough for me to acknowledge, honestly, where I'm only talking about it more from the business Sony side, PlayStation side, and I kind of leave the Destiny player side of it alone, and I just leave that to Destiny content creators and Destiny players. And that's the thing, Michael. Like, I will say, it's not like Destiny is an unplayable game all of a sudden, where, man, Bungie is fucking up or they're having problems, and suddenly Destiny is just an unplayable bad game that nobody should like at all. That I think people who make it sound like that, it's a bit, that's where the over-exaggeration is coming, where it's like, no, like, if Destiny wasn't a good game, it wouldn't have lasted this long. Maybe some of the business practices are questionable, but in order to maintain a player base for that long, you do need to have a competent playing game. And that's the thing. I never really questioned Bungie's competency in being able to make a fun, like, just smooth, good playing game. But at this point, I think what this might ultimately boil down to is it's not the game. It's not the developers of the game. It's truly just the leadership at Bungie has just totally turned rancid, essentially. Like they're just rotten now, and they have become, the problem within this studio. And because they are at the top, because they do make the final decisions and they do have the final say, it's trickling down to the developers, and it's trickling down into the game, and it's trickling down to the player base as well to a certain extent. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing, Michael. I will tell you straight up, like, if you're enjoying Destiny, I'm not here to tell anybody, don't enjoy Destiny, don't play it anymore, don't support it. That's not why I'm here. I'm just here to react, essentially, and give my thoughts on these reports. And my gut reaction is that this shit sounds like a nightmare, and I'm not feeling optimistic about what happens next. So hopefully that explains a little bit better, Michael. But I really appreciate that super chat, man. Thank you for that. We also have Street Shadow saying Jim left on good terms. He was also the longest standing PlayStation boss. Him leaving is part of the cycle to turn over as you're early on to next gen. Yeah, I will say that's another thing, is the timing of it. A lot of people pointed that out. They were like, look, Jim's just kind of passing the baton here. This is kind of what we've seen over and over again with PlayStation, is as they're beginning to enter not a new generation, but the development. Like, okay, these are the early stages of we're planning the next generation. It kind of has become a common practice at Sony to whoever was responsible for the previous gen passes the baton to the next leadership, passes the torch, so to speak, and then they take on the next role. The only thing that is a little bit strange here, and again, maybe I think Jim did leave on good terms, but I think maybe he kind of knew. Like maybe Jim saw the shitstorm coming a little bit, and he was like, you know what, I don't know that I want to be here for this, and somebody else can figure it out. It's the fact that like Sony was not prepared. Like that's the biggest thing to me. That's like the biggest red flag with the Jim Ryan situation. Not that Sony had a problem with Jim Ryan, but that Jim Ryan was just like, guys, I'm leaving. Sorry if it's kind of out of nowhere, but I'm out. And Sony was like, we don't have somebody ready to go. And you know what I mean? The fact that Sony has to scramble, essentially, to find a replacement for Jim, that tells me that, again, not that he left on bad terms, but that he left abruptly, and Sony was not necessarily prepared for that. Jim got his face on a cookie. Yeah, that says it all, man. Do you think Sony's trying to like win him back? Don't leave, Jim. We put your face on a cookie. We gave you a custom PS1 themed PlayStation 5. We gave you your own NFT. We gave you a bobblehead, a digital bobblehead. Please don't go. So thank you for that, Street Shadow. We also have Devilac47, a member for 11 months, saying the problem, Mike, is that, and I guess this is a response to Michael Stanbrook. You're saying the problem, Mike, is that for current players, all that new content is just recycled and there's no new content, and these seasons are way too long. Well, Devilac, I'm assuming this is coming from a Destiny player, one Destiny player to another. So Devilac, I can't speak to that as I don't play Destiny, but Michael, that's what Devilac is saying in response to your super chat. So I guess maybe you guys can converse in the chat, whether you agree or disagree, or maybe you can agree to disagree, but I don't know. It always feels so weird hearing Destiny players talk about Destiny, because I do feel like, man, I have like a general idea of the game, but I feel like I'm on the outside looking in. And we got Jake TRML coming in, keeping the membership train rolling today. Jake comes in and drops a single for us. Thank you so much for that, Jake.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Just brought us up to 31 members on the day. Thank you for that. Where? Okay. We have, let me see here. Where am I leaving off? Before I can read the rest of these super chats, we have Mash. Mash is coming in and drops a 10 bomb on us, guys. Mash is doing some heavy lifting today for this community out of nowhere. Mash, thank you so much, man. Good shit. Let's get some W's flowing in the chat for Mash. He dropped a 5 bomb earlier. Now he's dropping a 10 bomb on us. He just brought us up to 41 members on the day. Good stuff there, man. Good shit. Love to see it.
Holy shit.
I really drives me nuts that I can't hear these sound bites. What's frustrating sometimes, man, is like prior to these streams, I'm like sitting here messing with all the settings. You're saying is the microphone too loud? I'm sorry. I could probably turn it down a little bit. I turned it down a little bit. Do you notice a difference? I'm talking loudly into the mic. Does it sound better now? Sorry about that. Again, my audio settings got all jacked up recently and I had to mess around with the gain. I had it set to a specific point for so long and then it got all jacked up and now I'm trying to find the sweet spot again. Not really. Somebody's saying not really. They're not noticing a difference. All right, well, hopefully this is good enough. Mash, you're saying it's very good now. All right. We'll leave it here for now then. But yeah, we're sitting at 41 members on the day. We are now just 9 away. We're 9 away from hitting a second goal of 50 members, which is huge. So thank you guys again for all of your continued support. You make these streams, you make this content possible. We have a super chat here from Michael Lynch. He says, honey, I'm going to take the Civic, Rise of the Ronin, instead of the Porsche, Sekiro. I just like the way it drives better, shaking my head. I take offense to that, Michael. I take offense to that super chat. Dude, look, Michael, listen, I'm not here to compare. I think the biggest disservice that is occurring right now to Rise of the Ronin is there are too many comparisons. I understand why those comparisons are happening. I understand because this game does take inspiration from a lot of different games, and it's taking different mechanics from different games. But I will tell you that like Rise of the Ronin is a good game, dude. I'm not here to say it's better than Sekiro. Now I understand how it looks, Michael, where you're like, you tried playing Sekiro and then you put Sekiro down and stopped playing it. Now you're playing Rise of the Ronin and you're saying you're really enjoying it and you're continuing to play it. I know that essentially conveys the message of I like Rise of the Ronin better than Sekiro. And to be honest, I can't say that that's the truth. Okay? I can't say that that's the truth. And the reason is simple. Sekiro, at least for me, for the time I played it, again, I think the conditions in which I tried playing it were not ideal. I recorded myself. The first time I ever played Sekiro, I recorded myself. So I didn't even give myself time to familiarize myself with the game. I just dove in head first and recorded myself, and it was pretty uncomfortable because I just don't play games like that. And I think it just soured the whole experience for me. But I also realized when playing it on my own that this game is going to require a certain level of focus because it's not easy. Like you have to, when you sit down, at least for me, when you sit down to play Sekiro, you got to be ready to go. There's no taking it easy here. All right. The difference between Sekiro and Rise of the Ronin is Rise of the Ronin is quite the opposite, man. Like, I have probably about 8 or 9 hours into Rise of the Ronin so far. And let me tell you, I started getting a little bit like, all right, I'm going to take a break with the main content here and just progressing linearly in the story where it gets a little bit more difficult as you go further. And I'm going to start doing side content. And I'm going around, I'm collecting cats. I'm doing, photography. I'm still fighting enemies and stuff and clearing out some bases, but it's much simpler and easier. And that to me is the biggest difference here is that Rise of the Ronin has this much more casualized. It's like a. I don't think you can compare it to Sekiro because it has so much in there that would be considered more traditional and more casual. And I think that's all it comes down to, man, is that when the day comes, because it will come eventually, I'm sure of it. When the day comes, I'm like, it's finally time for me to play through Sekiro, to try to beat it. I know it's like this is going to require every time I turn this game on, I got to be on. I got to be on and ready to go, laser focused. And to be honest, at this point in time in my life, I'm definitely not there. Even if you watch me playing Rise of the Ronin, I am struggling a bit in certain areas where I am just not really, if you watch my stream yesterday, I'm not hitting those parries, man. If anything, if you watch my stream, my gameplay stream yesterday, which if you didn't see that, go check that out. I missed almost all of the parries and I barely survive any of these encounters because I'm not parrying. And considering Sekiro is basically purely parrying, right? Maybe you can begin to see why it's gonna be a struggle for me to overcome that game. Yeah, I got to make sure you eat a good breakfast that day. Why do you need 10 different classes for a game with 5 enemies? Scoopball says Sekiro is hard as fuck. I'm struggling and I'm at the beginning of the game. I'm trying to get back into it. Here's one other thing I'll say about Sekiro, before I continue on here. It's that I've encountered games like Sekiro in the past many times. Not exactly like it, but I'm talking like games where it's like, this game feels like a wall, dude. Like, I feel like I'm just running up against the wall over and over again, and I'm really struggling. And what I know about Sekiro is it's one of these games where I'm going to have to spend a large chunk of time playing it, feeling extremely uncomfortable. And at some point, could be 10 hours in, could be 20 hours. Well, I don't know. How long is the game? It's not, how long is Sekiro? I'm assuming it's not much longer than 20 hours. There's like maybe 30 hours or something. But it could take up to like 15 plus hours. I guess the game's length can be extended if you're dying and, respawning over and over again like I would be. It's just going to take a certain point, the switch is going to flip. It's going to flip, and I'm just going to get it. It's like I'm just one with the game, and I just get it, and it clicks. That is how Sekiro is going to work for me. Because anytime I've encountered these difficult games that I struggle with, that's how it works every time. I have to just sit there and play the game uncomfortably and not give up. And then at some point, when I don't know when, it just comes out of nowhere. Boom, you get it. Now it's just like suddenly you mastered the game and you got good. That's the way it goes for me. I remember it was like that with Returnal. I hit the 3rd level of Returnal, and it almost broke me. I was like, this sucks. I was like, why? Like, this is becoming unfun. This is uncomfortable. I'm not enjoying this because I suck ass at it. And I just kept pushing and pushing. And at some point, like 25 hours in, I just started fucking annihilating. I don't know what happened, but I got it. That's going to be Sekiro for me. Getting back to the point, Rise of the Ronin is not that way. Rise of the Ronin is very much a just linear, progressive ramping up from what I've played so far. Yeah, that's true. You're saying you also beat Lies of P, so I believe in you. Yeah, that's true. I should have more faith in myself. I did get the platinum for Lies of P, and that was fucking hard. That was probably the hardest thing I ever did. Because in order to get the platinum, I had to beat the final boss, the final optional boss of that game in New Game Plus. And oh my God, you want to talk about something that almost broke me. That basically broke me. I won't lie, it did break me. But I overcame it. So... But thank you for the super chat, Michael. We have King Sam here with a super chat saying, been unable to catch your streams live for a little while as I'm working more, assuming I haven't missed your thoughts on Sekiro, guessing you haven't got back to it yet. Also check out Hi-Fi Rush. Seriously. That's really interesting, King Sam. I just read your super chat now for the first time, and you're asking about Sekiro. Well, there you go, man. I hope that answered your question, King Sam, when it comes to Sekiro. MBG's scared of Sekiro. Maybe a little bit, yeah. But hey, man, King Sam, I'm glad you could at least be here, bro. I'm glad you're trying to tune in when you can. I appreciate that, bro. Telling me to check out Hi-Fi Rush. We'll see. I have no interest in Hi-Fi Rush. If I were to ever play that game, it would have to be just totally spontaneously and randomly, just like out of the blue, like, guys, I just decided I'm going to play Hi-Fi Rush for no reason. But I appreciate the recommendation, King Sam, and I appreciate the super chat, buddy. I have a super chat here from Silent Spartan who says, Rise of the Ronin is a much more fun game if you drop the difficulty and just enjoy the world. I'm loving it. It's funny because, like, I forgot that you choose a difficulty at the beginning of the game. Like, as I'm playing it, I just kind of forget, like, oh, wait, yeah, there are There's only 3 difficulty levels. It seems to be easy, medium, and hard. And I just have it on medium. Like, I have it on the standard. We'll see. So far, I've been able to overcome the challenges, like the difficult enemies. I'd maybe die a couple times. There was this one enemy I was fighting yesterday where I died like 5 times in a row, and I was like, okay, all right, this is getting a little bit annoying, but I was able to finally best him. And I don't know, I will consider that. I will consider maybe dropping the difficulty it depends on how frustrating it gets, because the thing is, knowing that Rise of the Ronin is an open world game, and a part of the experience is just kind of exploring the world and encountering random bases and camps and doing like side quests and side missions. I notice that when I play open world type games like that, difficulty is not something that can be as appealing. And it's interesting because I feel like Rise of the Ronin is kind of walking that line of, it definitely is trying to be somewhat challenging. And, people were saying yesterday, well, it is kind of like a Souls-like, right? I think, yeah, I could see that. Like, there are definitely some encounters where actually a lot of the encounters, I'm like barely surviving them. And it's just kind of like that slight little rush of, holy shit, I made it. I survived, and that does kind of remind me of the Dark Souls experience. But I don't know. I'll stick with it for now. But maybe you're right. Maybe this is one of those games where if you just drop the difficulty and just have fun, because the combat, I will say the combat is like relatively complex and it has layers to it, but executing it is pretty simple, where you're basically just pressing one button most of the time, that being square to attack. And then maybe you add R1 and you hold square, R1 and you hold triangle. And that definitely adds some layers to it, but there's the parry mechanic, and there's blocking. And it feels like where they tried to add a layer of, I would say, complexity and nuance is with the parrying, because without that, it really would just be a simple, like, just press square and attack type situation. But it's enjoyable, like, that's the thing is, and I know that makes it sound maybe like bad to people, where it's like, well, that sounds boring, but it's actually fun. It's pretty fun. But there's a lot of different weapons. And maybe the complexity also comes in the form of there's so many weapons, and there are different stances, for each weapon. So I guess, to be fair, that's probably where the majority of the complexity comes from, next to the parrying mechanic. MBG of Sekiro is tough. What is Neo like? I don't know. I never played Neo. People were telling me that Rise of the Ronin compared to Neo, Rise of the Ronin is like very much simplified. Like, Neo is people were saying like it's like a very complex game. Like, it has a lot of systems, very difficult. Never played it though. I don't know, maybe if one day, maybe I will play Neo down the line. No problem. I mean, I probably won't, but I am kind of curious, Maybe I'll go watch some gameplay of Neo 2. And see like how it compares to Rise of the Ronin. Yeah, Irfin, I saw that. I'll talk about that in a moment. But Silent Spartan, I also want to give you a shout out, man. That says that's your 20th time dropping a super chat. Good shit, dude. Thank you for the support. We have Arnie Vesper with a super chat saying, I'm behind as usual, often busy right when you start, but I still super chat. Important to support the only streamer I listen to. Treat it like my podcast. Well, thank you so much, Arnie Vesper, and shout out to you for that, man. I appreciate that. I know a lot of you guys, you have to pick and choose which streams you can listen to, but I know that there are also many of you that do try to tune into all of them, and I very much appreciate that. If you're somebody who's here like every stream, whether you're watching it live or watching it later, thank you. It really does mean a lot. It really does help. You guys power this channel. And without that type of support, it would be difficult or maybe even impossible to run this channel the way I would like to. So thank you. Guys, by the way, speaking of support, we're sitting at 192 likes. Do me a favor, hit that like button. We could easily hit 200. Let's see if we can get to 225 likes. I think we can do it. I do have, all right, so here's what I'll do. I'm going to give my closing thoughts on the main topic of Bungie, because I think we went over like basically the bulk of it. I think I gave pretty much all of my thoughts. I'll give some closing thoughts, and then I have some bonus topics that we're going to talk about. One of those bonus topics is, Cory Barlog. It seems to be teasing the new IP. And talk a little bit about Bend Studio. There is a chance that one of these topics could turn out to be a full-blown topic of discussion for a future stream. It depends, though. But yeah, let me give my closing thoughts on the situation with Bungie. Essentially, what I'm seeing is what is a bad purchase, a bad acquisition, and a bad investment. I'm seeing one that looks like as each day goes by, as each week goes by, the pressure is mounting on the development team, not even the leadership of Bungie, but the development team to deliver just a phenomenal, overperforming expansion that is essentially going to save the day. And I do not have a lot of faith at all that that's what's going to happen. And I feel like I am prepared to see the worst happen, which is the expansion comes out. It does okay, but it also does a lot of damage because Bungie's leadership just essentially screwed up the whole thing. And I'm assuming we're going to see more layoffs. And I'm assuming that we're not going to see a takeover from Sony for quite some time. I am thinking that the reports are likely to be accurate, where if a takeover from Sony happens, it's going to happen maybe in 2026 when these C-suite executives at Bungie get their payout and they leave on their own. Maybe it would be less messy that way. Really quick, Antonio Lopes, you're saying, have you read the article on Eurogamer regarding Bend? I didn't know that there was an article written up about it. Okay, thank you for pointing that out. I have that up. I'll refer to that when we move on to that. But thank you. I had no idea. That'll make this a little bit easier to report on. Again, it could turn into a full-blown topic of discussion for one of the upcoming streams. But yeah, I think the situation with Bungie is escalating in a negative way. I think that the pressure is insurmountable, unfortunately, for the development team. And I have very little faith that Marathon... I feel like... Let me simplify what I'm trying to say, because I'm basically just repeating what I said earlier. I think that Bungie has two chances. They have two opportunities to turn the ship around. And I think Sony is reluctantly going to give them those two chances. The first is, as I said, with the Final Shape expansion. I think that one is much less likely to be the thing that turns it around, which is sad because it's the end of Destiny 2. You would think that they would end it with a bang. And it seems like, unfortunately, there's a chance it's going to end with a whimper, which is, again, very unfortunate. Would have never expected that. The second opportunity to turn things around is going to come in the form of Marathon. I don't think Marathon's going to, unless something like truly cataclysmic happens, I don't think Marathon's going to get canceled. I think Marathon is going to reach the finish line. I think it's going to come out. And I don't know what it's going to be like, but based off of the reports, because I haven't seen Marathon, none of us have, it sounds like it could underwhelm. It sounds like it could struggle to wow people. And it sounds like it could end up being the type of game that a lot of people, when they see it, they're just kind of looking at each other being like, this is what's coming after Destiny? But it also could, again, it could be the thing that turns the ship around. Marathon could very much turn out to be a surprise hit. And it could be the thing that, allows Bungie as a development team to kind of just usher in a new age of, okay, like this is our next big thing. But I'm not optimistic. I'm actually very pessimistic in my outlook on this. And that's just me. I'm not... Right now, Bungie is collapsing. That doesn't mean it's over. That doesn't mean they can't rebuild. That doesn't mean that they can't, start over or reestablish themselves. But they are collapsing. That much we do know. The leadership has eroded. The leadership, and I guess that's the last point I'll make here. The one thing that seems certain to me is that the leadership at Bungie is not staying, no matter what. That is the one thing that has truly collapsed, and maybe it's just collapsing in slow motion, and we're just it hasn't hit the ground yet, so to speak, but it's happening. The leadership is not staying. Whether they get axed and kicked out by Sony or taken over, because keep in mind there was that one report that said that if the revenue drops low enough at Bungie, Sony can do a forceful takeover. And I'm assuming Sony doesn't want to have to do that, but they might be prepared to do that because, again, if the revenue drops that low, Sony's basically going to be forced, we have to stop the bleeding and the hemorrhaging. It's too severe. But it seems like whether it happens that way or whether it happens in 2026 when the executives take their payout and they leave and then they kind of hand Marathon off or throw it to Sony, that to me is the definitive thing here based on all the reporting that the leadership at Bungie has collapsed. And no matter what happens, it will need to be corrected. It will need to be rebuilt. Whether that comes in the form of Sony putting their own leaders in there and saying, guys, do your shit, do your thing, and fix this, or Sony going out and finding better leaders and hiring them. Or maybe there's a chance that there are people working at Bungie, and here's another, this is a more optimistic outlook. Maybe there's a chance that there are developers working at Bungie that are leadership material, but they just are not they're not being given a fair chance because, again, the leadership that's currently there is toxic, corrosive, and only in it for themselves. And they're not going to allow these people with the potential to actually be good leaders outshine them. So they're not going to give them that opportunity. There's a lot of different ways this could play out. The very last thing I'll say is that I'm ultimately just sad to see that this is the current conversation around Bungie and Sony. And it's sad that we went from, in just a matter of a couple years, the excitement of, wow, who would have thought that Bungie would have ended up with Sony? The sky's the limit here, people. To now it's this. And time will tell. Time will tell. I assume that this is certainly not the last we're going to hear of this situation with Bungie. I'm assuming that there are currently outlets and reporters and journalists that are trying to get into contact with more people in the know at Sony, at Bungie, and I think that in the coming months, we're going to hear more. When does the final shape release, by the way? Didn't that get delayed to June, I think? Let me check really quick. June 4th. Okay. So, yeah, I think the next time we're probably going to hear more about Bungie's situation is not too long after the final shape releases in June. I think maybe 2 weeks after the final shape launches, we'll probably be hearing something. And we'll cover it then. So, yeah, it's just the name of the game, I guess. Not every investment can be a big one. Oh, and you know what, too? Yeah, you're saying maybe we'll get a showcase in May. I'll tell you, there's a decent chance we could see Marathon in action before the final shape releases. Because if Sony does do a May showcase, I have to imagine the next time we get a showcase from Sony, we're going to see Marathon gameplay. If we don't see Marathon gameplay, then I'll be convinced that Sony's doesn't want to show the game, or Bungie doesn't want to show the game. But yeah, and that's it. That is everything I have to say as of right now on this Bungie situation. I hope things can turn around. I don't want to see bad things happen to Sony or Bungie, obviously, but But I also have to be realistic in my evaluation of the situation based off of what I know. All right. Every week, new showcase speculation. Yeah, pretty much. Yes. All right. So I want to move on to this topic. Again, I do need to preface this by letting you guys know I have to think about it. Just consider this a bonus topic. Okay. This was not meant to be the main topic of discussion, but it's something that you guys want me to talk about, and it could get its own dedicated stream. But have a report here from Eurogamer. Bend Studios' next project will be a AAA live service game. Bend Studios' next game will be a AAA live service game. That's according to a new recruitment advertisement posted to the studio's website, which reveals the team is looking to secure a new lead project manager with hands-on game development experience in leadership roles, shipping AAA live service games. The role also specifically seeks someone with experience in redefining studios from traditional boxed product-focused game development into live service development studios in a key leadership role. Sony's Bend Studio, the developer perhaps best known for 2019's post-apocalyptic bikes and zombies adventure Days Gone, revealed it was working on its next project way back in June of 2022. I thought it was 2021. Anyway, it says confirming it'll be a new IP that will include multiplayer and build on the open world systems of Days Gone. Consequently, it looks as though the Oregon-based studio, which was acquired by Sony in 2000, wow, that's a long time. I didn't realize they were acquired way back then, will be helping the Megacorp realize its recent favor for more live service games, although neither Sony nor Bend have formally confirmed that at this time. In case you missed it, Days Gone is getting a film adaptation. The movie will be written by Oscar-nominated Sheldon Turner with Sam Heughan, who plays Outlander's Jamie Fraser, reportedly in consideration for the lead role of Deacon St. John. How many of you guys are just learning about that today? So, yeah, I saw this making the rounds where Sony Bend's new IP is going to be a live service game. Now, I saw a lot of people in denial about this, and I understand why. A lot of people were in denial because they were thinking exactly what I was thinking, which is, wait, didn't Sony Bend say themselves like a couple of years ago that it's a new IP, but it will feature multiplayer? And so what this kind of, I guess, manifested as in people's minds, including mine, is, oh, this is like a single player game that maybe you can play cooperatively, or there'll be like an extra multiplayer component that'll ship with it. And so, again, it's understandable why so many people were in denial, but it is true, guys, that everything that references a AAA live service game is from their job postings. And I can't deny that this is disappointing to me. And I don't want to be overreactive. I don't want to, I'm not saying that I'm not interested anymore. I am still very interested in this game. I want to see what Sony Bend is cooking. I'm not going to judge it before I see it. But what this does tell me is what we end up seeing could be very different than what I had hoped for. And that's where the disappointment lies. The disappointment lies in that Days Gone was a great single-player game. And yeah, I don't like that terminology, right? Help us transform from going from a traditional, how did they put it, like a boxed game studio to, basically, I guess, a live service studio like that. This is just so disheartening to me because it's like Days Gone was underrated. That should be clear by now. I think everybody has kind of agreed that Days Gone is kind of underrated. It's a great open world single player game, narrative driven. People wanted a sequel. We found out you're not getting a sequel. Sorry. Yeah, the game sold 8, 9, 10 million units. No sequel. We find out that the studio heads of Sony Bend are essentially ousted, you know, like there was friction in the studio and they left, but it seemed like they were basically pushed out. And we're reassured by the new leadership that, hey, we got a whole new IP we're making and we're going to learn from the systems of Days Gone. Like basically they had to throw in Days Gone in there because they know people want Days Gone 2. Like, look, we're not making Days Gone 2, but we're going to learn. We're going to implement all the different systems, you know, into this new game. And it might have some multiplayer, but they definitely didn't say it was live service. And that's where the disappointment lies, where it's like, so you guys are just completely doing a 180 and you're now just going to be a completely different studio chasing a completely different type of game. That is disappointing. I don't want to say it sucks because if the game's good, then it won't matter. I'll be honest with you. Like for me, Helldivers has proven, okay, Sony can put out a successful live service, but Helldivers was exactly what Arrowhead wanted to do from the get-go. They did Helldivers 1, and then they built on that with Helldivers 2. It's not like Helldivers was some cinematic single-player driven game where then they were suddenly like, let's just make it a co-op multiplayer game instead. You know what I mean? Titus Crow with a super chat says, oh, talking about Helldivers. Helldivers worked because it was totally authentic. Hardly any bullshit or microtransactions. A great game first. I only hope Sony learned this lesson, but who knows? Yeah, and that's the thing too, is like Helldivers, the vision of what that game was clear from the beginning, from when the studio like was created. We want to make this co-op shooter. And they started very, you know, small scope, indie, kind of, you know, with some funding from Sony, and then they turned it into a AAA project, and it worked great. It's hard to hear this, man. Like, it's hard to be okay with, like, but you guys made Days Gone. Like, you guys made Days Gone, and now you're like, what if we just fucking make a live service? I don't know. It's hard for me to not have like a very instinctive negative reaction to this because it's like, I just have a bad feeling. Like, how do you go from what, again, I want to remind people, spoilers, somewhat spoilers for Days Gone. Days Gone sequel baited. Days Gone had one of the biggest sequel baits I've ever seen in a Sony game. And they're like, nah, we'll make a fucking Days Gone movie, but we're not making a Days Gone sequel. And it's like, look, I was so okay with that because I'm like, all right, they're making a new IP. It's okay. Like, that's fine. That's what Days Gone was. Days Gone was a new IP. They want to make another new one. Maybe it'll be even better. But then it's like, by the way, it's going to be live service. We want to transform our studio. And it's just like, all I'm going to be like, I don't want to see this game and be disappointed, dude. I really don't. Like, I do not want to see Sony Bend come out at a PlayStation showcase. Here's our new game. And it's some fucking bullshit, cringe, live service. Like, what is this? What is this? And I don't want to be sitting there just thinking what could have been. And I think I'm not alone in that feeling. I think that almost every person, or at least the majority of people who came across this news live, you guys are making a full live service game now? I think that's exactly what they felt, is like, oh no, not like this, man. And I see people, you know, I see them clinging to hope. And I want to cling on to it as well with the hopium, where it's like, didn't they just say it's just gonna be like a little bit of multiplayer? It's just a little bit of multiplayer. And it's like, it's a job listing, man. Maybe it could be great, but that's not what I want to hear. I like, simply put, That's not what so somebody might be saying, well, how come you were so excited for The Last of Us multiplayer? And that was live service. Because, dude, I knew what to expect. You know? Like, I know what The Last of Us is. I know what that gameplay is. I know what that world is. I know what multiplayer in that universe looks like from The Last of Us, Factions 1. So it's like, yes, that, but even bigger and better and more exciting. Whatever, like, this gives me nightmares because it's like, I'm just thinking, like, this is going to be, I want you to just think about what Days Gone is, and then think about the exact opposite in every way, shape, or form. Like, what would the opposite of Days Gone be in every single way, shape, or form? I'm like terrified that's what this game is going to be. And I'm going to want to just curl up in a ball and be like, no, this can't be happening. You know? Like, I am now afraid. That basically, that's what I'm trying to say, is these reports and this conversation around Sony Bend and this job listing has now officially shook me, where I went from feeling very confident in the studio, very excited about this new IP. You guys know, if you've been following me, I've been talking about it for a long time, to now I am extremely fucking nervous about what the hell are they going to show us. Because I can't take much more. Like with this live service shit, dude. I'm so happy for Helldivers, and I love that Helldivers has succeeded. And I think it's exactly what Titus is saying here. It's an authentic game, man. Like, this dev team from the onset was like, this is what we're fucking making. We believe in it. It's different. Not many people are making games like this. And Sony was like, okay, yeah, we'll fund it. And no one knew that this was going to be the big winner. And I'm glad it is, because it deserves it. Because it's not, you know what, you're right. You know what Helldivers isn't doing? Chasing fucking trends. That's what Helldivers isn't fucking doing. Helldivers did what it wanted to do, and people loved that shit. And they're like, yo, this is great. And they won by doing just what they wanted to do without chasing anything. And I am just so fucking terrified about almost everything else Sony's doing with live service, because I'm afraid that the situation is going to end up looking like the only successful live service game Sony had was Helldivers, because that was really the only one not trying to chase some kind of trend. And everything else is going to end up being some kind of, and I don't mean to be so doom and gloom, but I'm afraid everything else is going to be some kind of dumpster fire, because it's like, everybody's going to be like, this reeks of fucking, corporate playtest, fucking focus test nonsense. And seeing this job listing from Bend is like, oh man, what are you guys doing? Hanzo Rezo, member for 9 months, says, to all here, you and the family, one love. Well, thank you for that, Hanzo. The PS5 Pro spec leak is beautiful and all, but you know what I like the best? Cook's voice. The Cerny sauce that'll be within. Oh, man. Hanzo, I was not ready. I was not ready for the abrupt turn that chat you just... Yeah, I wasn't ready for that. The Cerny sauce that'll be within. I mean, I agree, though. What's Mark Cerny cooking with the PS5 Pro? We're gonna find out. This is the first thing that Sony's going to reveal on the PS5 Pro, this live service Bend game. Here's a question I have for you guys. I want to go back to this article really quick. Hold on. Sorry. I accidentally clicked out of it. I want to go back to this article. So, look, it says a new job advertisement posted to the studio's website, which reveals the team is looking to secure a lead project manager. So a lead project manager. That means they're looking for a lead manager for this game that they've been making, with experience in roles shipping AAA live service games. The role also specifically seeks someone with experience in redefining studios from traditional boxed products. Let me actually see if I can find the job listing itself. Okay, I have the actual job listing up here. Lead project manager for game development, Bend Studio. Project management. Crafting our next high-profile AAA title. I'm trying to find some key points here. There's actually a lot listed here. Requirements, 5+ years in project management, considerable experience leading game development teams. Okay. Additional plus requirements. Experience redefining AAA game development studios from waterfall to agile development and production in a hands-on leadership role. Experience. Boss, are you okay? Why has he been sneezing so much? I swear, he's been sneezing a lot. You alright? I'm worried about Boss. I don't know why he's sneezing like that. He just keeps sneezing. Like these like little sneezes. Like it's like he got something up his nose. He's been doing that for like the past 24 hours. All right. You guys see do you see what I'm saying? Hopefully he's okay. But it says here, experience redefining studios from traditional box product focused game development into live service development studios in a key leadership role. The estimated base pay range for this role is between $116K and $174K. So yeah, man, I need somebody to figure it. Oh man, I hope we get a report on this. Jason Schreier, somebody, Tom Henderson, somebody, please figure out what's going on at Sony Bend. Be dust or allergies, you think? Yeah, I don't know. He's just been sneezing randomly starting yesterday. Like just these little sneezes, sometimes stronger. Don't chew my mic. I'm worried about you, but that doesn't mean you can chew my mic. Yeah, that's Irfan. That's what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say. Is you're saying, what if the game was single player and rebooted along the way? What's weird to me about this is that there was no mention by Bend Studio ever about live service when they announced their new game. They mentioned multiplayer, but they never said live service. And this means one of two things. It means that they were hiding that fact because they were afraid of backlash. So they just said multiplayer elements. But really, they knew from the onset, like, we're making a live service. I think that's more likely, truthfully. And and they never said single player. So I think this is pretty much just the confirmation that Bend Studio has been working on a live service game this whole time. And we're just now finding that out. Where they said multiplayer elements, but really what they were trying to say is live service. But they didn't say live service because they were afraid people would get mad. And now this is how we're learning about it. Because think about it. During the time where Sony Bend was making this new IP, and they announced that they were making this new IP, this was in the middle of Jim Ryan's, leadership at PlayStation, where he was the one that was like full steam ahead with live service games. And we now know that pretty much every major PlayStation studio was at one point in time working on some kind of live service game. And we have Corey, the legend Landiga, coming in out of nowhere. Corey comes in out of nowhere and drops a 20 bomb. Corey, I have a special soundbite for you, bud. I know you'll appreciate this one. Give me a second so I can play. I got to remember which one I have to remember which one I tagged it to, though. Hold on.
But that was some fancy
play?
shooting.
Hold on.
You're pretty good.
Did it play? I had this all set up prior. Corey, I've been specifically saving this one for you, man. Did it play it? Big boss, you're pretty good. Thank you so much, though, man. I would do some lifting for you, but I'm actually not allowed to lift yet. At least not heavy. And if I can't lift fully, I'm just gonna still resting and recovering. But there you go, Corey. I specifically found that soundbite. I was like, I gotta add some more Metal Gear here, man. Sorry, I'm just a little discombobulated right now. Don't drink that, boss. Don't drink that. Yeah, I'm still I'm doing better. I'm doing better each day. Something that I feel like I'm having a problem with, though, truthfully, is I think that I've gotten like some TMJ going on the right side of my face. And that has, I think that is really the only thing kind of driving me nuts. Because some days I've noticed since my procedure, I'm like, I'm okay. I'm not in a lot of pain. And I don't really have any pain or discomfort. And then other days, it's like I have the whole right side of my face into my ear, gives me a headache. It's like just the whole right side of my face is like a massive toothache, just radiating, aching pain that it hurts, man. And I'm assuming it's just temporary, you know? I had to get like sutures back there. So I'm assuming it's temporary and it'll go away. I pray it goes away because, man, the pain can be nearly debilitating. Not to complain, but just to give you guys a little update, I'm recovering pretty well, I would say. I don't think there's any infection or anything. No dry socket. But yeah, if you just look up TMJ. I wasn't really familiar with it either, but I'm like, what is this pain I'm experiencing? And apparently that's what it is. But anyway, Corey, thank you again, man. You just dropped a 20 bomb on us, crushed a second goal of 50 members, which means I got to give boss more snacks. Hey, come here. I forgot to play. Why is it not playing? There you go, man. All right, boss is on to a second helping of snacks. I'm going to update the member goal. We'll talk a little bit more about this. We will be doing a members launch today, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier. So if you are a channel member, be sure to stick around and join us in there after this stream ends. We're sitting at 61. So Corey, you absolutely crushed it, dude. 61 members. There you go. Yeah, I got to get... I keep forgetting. I got to get that stick around Arnold quote. Marcus, I'm sorry. I almost missed your milestone chat here. You said, I think the PS5 Pro max price is going to be between $450 and $500 because they don't want to make the PS3 mistake. I don't think so, Marcus. I'll be totally honest. I think it's going to be minimum $600. And the reason why I think Sony's not afraid of making the PS3 mistake is because it's a mid-gen refresh. You know, like they already know that most people are not going to be buying the Pro. They know that the Pro is going to be targeting a smaller audience, a more enthusiastic audience, an audience that's definitely going to be okay with paying $600. I would love for you to be right though, Marcus, but that's my honest evaluation. Is I think the PS5 is going to stay at the $500 price point, and the Pro is going to be $600 minimum. Did my I was trying to play the boss. You're gonna knock my cup over, man. I was trying to play the boss thanks again, and I'm not sure if it. Oh, there we go. Sorry if that's like the third time I played that, but that was for you as well, Corey, for that 20 bomb. There's going to be scalpers. There definitely will be, unfortunately. But I don't know, man. With the way people have been talking about the Pro, there isn't going to be any demand for it. Didn't you guys hear? No one's going to care about it. No one's going to want to buy it. So if that's true, then there shouldn't be any scalpers. Boss's voice is different from what I imagined. All right, what if I told you that meow you're hearing, it is Boss, but I actually, okay, Boss, you're overwhelming me, bro. What if I told you that his voice, I actually altered it, or his meow, I actually pitched it down slightly. So his actual meow is even higher pitched than that. Would you believe me? Stop it. Stop it. I'm just kidding, but I didn't actually do that. No, that is how he actually sounds. I just wanted to see what you guys would say if I told you that his meow is even more high pitched than that. No, his meow can change though. When he does a regular meow, like the one that you hear in that little clip I play, Boss, you son of a, stop it. Stop it. Get down. Now you're just being bad. I think I'm embarrassing him. That's why he's getting so aggressive. But if his regular meow is just, it is pretty high pitched. It's not that high pitched. The reason why that meow, and that was the only one I was able to capture, and this will make it funny the next time you see it, when you see me play it again. When I was recording that video, it's actually under my desk. My son was right behind me. And my son was the one who was actually able to get him to meow, because my son is at that age where he likes to fuck with the cats constantly. And Boss is just like, Boss basically just tries to tell him, please leave me alone. Please stop. Like, I don't want to be fucked with. I'm just trying to sleep. And my son thinks it's the funniest thing in the world. And so the only way I was able to capture that meow is I just hit the record button. My son came over, and as soon as my son entered the vicinity, Boss meowed. And that was basically what Boss, I know he's saying thanks, but really what he's actually saying is, please leave me alone. That's the meow translation. How cruel? No. If it makes you feel any better, Boss was pretty chill. He just meowed at him, and my son little MBG was like, whatever, I'm out. but Boss is the most talkative when Lil MBG is around. Thanks, Lil MBG. And to be honest, it was unprompted too. Like, I wasn't trying to, I actually wasn't even trying to get him to meow. I was just recording him because I thought it was funny. What I was actually going to do originally is I was going to take that recording and I was going to put like a funny ass sound over it, like a funny, like deep meow, like meow, and make you guys think that's what he sounded like. But then he actually made the sound. I'm like, oh, well, all right. That makes it easier. But now you guys know the story. That's the lure behind that. Maybe in the future I can do other recordings as well. We'll see what I can make happen. Something I would love to do is get a recording of Boss and Leia battling and play that for like certain goals. Boss, holy shit, can you stop? This is why I don't feel bad for you, man. This is why I don't feel bad for you. Like, you're being totally rude right now. All right, come on. Get down. Get down right now. This is the point of the stream where he's just taken over the show entirely. Just completely. Should have given the roar of Scar. That would have been funny. That would have been really funny. Boss thinks I'm Otacon. Well, that's every stream, MBG. Yeah, that's true. That is true. Irvin says, touch some grass, boss. Boss is a good boy. He's like any other cat off stream. You know, he gets into a little bit of trouble, a little bit of shenanigans, but nothing too extreme. All right, so what were we talking about? Oh yeah, the Sony Bend situation. So again, I didn't want to go on too long with the Sony Bend topic just because it's a bit of a bonus topic, but just to get back to that, I am very concerned about Sony Bend's next game and the fact that it's now confirmed to be a full-blown live service. However, I'm not going to assume the worst. I will have that nervousness and that fear of this could go very badly and I could end up hating this game. But I'm going to try to have a little bit of faith in that if the game wasn't canceled, it's because they must be cooking up something pretty good and it's something that they want to make. That's the most important thing is whatever this game is, this is what they want to make. So we'll see. I'm hoping we will see it this year. If we don't see it this year, I'm hoping we'll get some kind of report that will tell us like something about the game. Like, here's what the game is. Here's what it's about. You're saying they don't even know how to make a multiplayer, let alone a game as a service. That's what makes me nervous about it, man. It's difficult for me to imagine the studio that made Days Gone suddenly, and our next game is a live service. Maybe it will still have some kind of single player, but it'll be positioned as like I don't know, maybe like an ongoing story of some kind, and that's kind of where the live service part comes in. I don't know. I just, man, I'm so ready, in case you guys can't tell, like I'm just so ready for Sony to generate more excitement again. You know, like I wasn't excited to talk about this topic today. I felt like I had to cover this topic. It was important to cover this topic, and I'm glad to have something to talk about on this stream with you, but I don't enjoy talking about this all these negative reports about Bungie, and then like, oh, by the way, Sony Bend confirmed their game's full-blown live service, and it's like, well, I'm ready for like Sony to start changing the conversation because, man, it's just feels like it's, you know, I mean, I know it was this year. The last like really good hoorah moment we got for PlayStation in terms of the conversation was it feels like it was that live I almost said that live why did I say that live service game? I mean, there's Helldivers 2, of course, but the state of play, and yeah, it feels like there's still just so much uncertainty around PlayStation Studios and what's going on over there. And well, here we are, guys. We're pretty much at the end of March. We're at the end of March. We're going to be entering April, and April usually kicks off the beginning of, okay, we're now entering the showcase season, not just for Sony, but generally speaking, like we start to see a ramp up to all of these video game companies and publishers getting ready to talk, show their stuff, and I'll be paying very close attention. I'm sure you guys will too. But yeah, I just have to thank you guys for riding with me still. I know these are not the most exciting topics. I know that a lot of us here are very much PlayStation fans that just want things to be excited about. And, we prefer the good news, obviously, over the not so good news, but we got to roll with the punches and take it as it comes. And so I'm not going to judge Bend Studio too harshly because I don't know what they're making. I haven't seen it. I have no idea what the game's going to be. All I know is that Bend Studio made Days Gone. I love Days Gone. Days Gone was a single-player cinematic game. And now I know that they're making a live service new IP. So for me, it's 50-50, right? It's a coin flip. It's a coin toss. When I see this game, I'm either going to be like, oh my God, that looks amazing. Even for live service, like I'm pumped. Or I'm going to see it and I'm going to be like, oh man, what could have been? What could have been? Saying that hopefully next month will be better news-wise. I hope so. Yeah, I'm telling you, man, I feel like there were two bright spots for PlayStation this year so far. That was the State of Play and Helldivers 2, but everything else has been kind of like topsy-turvy, Corey, you're saying now if we could get a Sony conference on par with E3 2015 conference, we'll be okay. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We need that. I need that. We need that. We definitely need that. Sorry, I just wanted to open that window. It's getting a little stuffy in here. I think it's actually pretty cold out, but man, I think my PC is generating a lot of heat, and it's getting hot. All right, so there was one other bonus topic that I have for you guys before we wrap this up and move on to the members lounge. Okay? Two bonus. Well, I guess they're two separate topics, but really I'm just merging them into one. The first, I have a report here from PlayStation Lifestyle. Sony previously said that the PlayStation Portal is meant to be a niche product for a specific audience, but its sales continue to surprise. Not only has the handheld sales already exceeded the company's expectations, it continues to sell in major markets, including the US. Circana revealed that the PlayStation Portal was February 2024's best-selling accessory in the country, at least in terms of dollar sales. According to Circana's Matt Pescatella, accessories spending grew by 25% in the US during the month of February, helped by a 14% increase in spending on gamepads and remote play devices, the latter of which includes the PlayStation Portal. The Portal edged past, no pun intended, the Dualsense Edge in the month of February. However, the Dualsense Edge remains the best-selling accessory of 2024 year-to-date in the US. Also, just want to highlight, Sony clearly made a really wise decision with the DualSense Edge because, dude, the DualSense Edge is like dominating the accessory chart for Sony. So clearly, like, there's a lot of people buying this premium controller. I still use the DualSense Edge, and I love it. I've actually tried going back to the regular DualSense a couple times after. Really couldn't do it. Couldn't do it. Just the whole feel of it, you know? But some good news for the PlayStation Portal. It says here this is a pretty impressive feat considering that many expressed skepticism about the Portal's success despite it being designed specifically for the PS5 owners who wish to connect to their consoles remotely. But there's a follow-up here. This is where things get very interesting. Report from WCCF Tech, multiple Xbox handheld prototypes are being worked on at Microsoft according to rumors circulating online. Speaking during the latest episode of the Xbox 2 podcast, Windows Central's Jez Corden revealed how the company currently has multiple Xbox handheld prototypes for a system meant to play Xbox games natively. The fact that there are multiple prototypes, however, doesn't mean that the device will go to market, as devices are canned all the time, and Microsoft itself did so with the Surface Mini. While there's the possibility that the Xbox handheld may never make it to market, Jez Corden believes that it is happening for a few reasons. For starters, the current landscape seems quite favorable with the success of the Steam Deck and similar devices, and it would be insane for Microsoft not to go ahead with its device, also considering how Valve has managed to build a handheld gaming platform that has exclusives from both Microsoft and Sony. Additionally, as opposed to other rumors, such as the ones from earlier this year that said that Microsoft was going third-party, no one has debunked the Xbox handheld rumors, so the company is, at the very least, considering the possibility. As for when the Xbox handheld could be released, it is impossible to tell, but likely it won't launch this year or the next. As a product gets closer to release, more information leaks out, as it's happening right now with the PS5 Pro, and the fact that this hasn't happened yet suggests that the device is nowhere near launch. Now, I had to cover these two things back to back because I think it's actually great news that Microsoft is apparently prototyping a native handheld and for Xbox. And I hope that they actually do this because, see, there's no way, no chance that Microsoft comes out with a native Xbox handheld and Sony doesn't match it with a native PlayStation handheld. We did hear from apparently Moore's Law is dead that Sony is also prototyping a native PlayStation handheld, but this to me is just a very good sign. Like if you are somebody who is into handheld gaming and you want to see Sony make a comeback with like a PSP 2 or PS Vita 2 type device, Xbox is apparently working on their own. And I just don't think there's a world where Microsoft is prototyping this type of stuff and actually seemingly going to go through with it. And Sony's just like, nah, we're not going to do a dedicated handheld. I don't think that world exists. I think we are going to get, interestingly enough, in the coming years, a dedicated PlayStation handheld and a dedicated Xbox handheld. And I think it'll be great. I think this is great. And I think the fact that the PlayStation Portal is doing well, better than what Sony expected, is also a good sign that Sony should continue down this road. But I just wanted to bring this to your guys' attention because I found it interesting. We know that the Steam Deck is doing really well. See a lot of people talking about the Asus ROG, I think. Is that what it's called? Or what's it called? Is it? What's the other handheld? I feel like there's a bunch of new handhelds out, or there's like more coming out. I feel like there's a new handheld announced like every couple of months. Every company's trying to get in on it, and again, the ROG out. Yeah, what did I say? The Asus. Is that what I said? Damn, MBG, you're not in the loop. No, the Lenovo one. They're making. I mean, that's the thing. I feel like I see all these different handhelds. Kind of the MSI Claw. Yeah, okay, I heard that one as well. Yeah, and this is what's crazy to me is like you can play Sony games on these devices, and Sony doesn't have a device. It is Asus. Okay. Razer, Acer, Soldier Boy, Logitech. Everybody's got it. See, yeah, that's crazy to me. You're gonna have all these different handheld options at your disposal where you can play like so many of these PlayStation games natively on the handheld. But Sony doesn't have something. They're gonna have to do it. All right. So let's see here. Where are we at? Guys, one more time. hit that like button for me, okay? We're sitting at 252 likes. Thank you guys for that. We still have over 370 people here hanging out. Love to see it. We can crush 275 likes. I know we can do it. I know we can do it. And this will be the last call for any membership gifts that you guys might want to drop. It's up to you. We are sitting at 61, so a big day for membership gifts. We're going to be heading over to the members lounge in probably the next 10, 15 or so minutes. So yeah, last call for any membership gifts or for anybody who wants to become a channel member to join us there. Oh, you have a pretty good China handheld you paid $40 for? Shit, dude. Is there a name for it? Or is it just called the China handheld? You want a retro handheld? I mean, I think it would be great if Sony does a native handheld. They should call it the PSP 2. They really should. That would be the best thing to do. We have Jake, TRML, answering the call here, dropping a membership gift. And then Corey, the legend Landiga, comes in and drops another 10 bomb on you guys. Corey doing some serious heavy lifting today. Love to see it, man. Thank you so much. So, again, anybody who's here with us right now who just got gifted a membership, you now have access to the members lounge. Thanks to these very generous individuals. Corey just brought us up to 72. Corey and Jake just brought us up to 72 members. So we are just 3 away from crushing another goal here. I'll extend the stream for another minute or two here, see if you guys want to crush that goal or not. But really appreciate the support, guys. Good shit. Corey, I got to give you, let me see. Where I'm still trying to get used to where all these, I like rearranged all my sound bites.
But that was some fancy shooting.
Bro, I'll give you
good.
You know what? Hold on. I know what to do. I know how to close out the stream. I'm setting it up now. I can't lift right now, but let me know if this works. And I apologize in advance. It should work. Hold on. Shit's all discombobulated here. I used that word twice. I used the word discombobulated twice today. I never fucking use that word. Is it playing? Got some MGS. Dude, I can't hear anything. Why can't I hear anything? That is torturous, man. Well, as long as it's playing for you guys. No lifting? No, I can't yet. I'm still in recovery mode. I don't know when I'm going to be able to lift again. Probably soon. Probably by next week. If I had to assume. But yeah, Corey, that's for you, bro. And for everybody else who gifted. Guys, you're saying just relax, man. I know. It's hard. I'm not used to taking it easy necessarily. MBG, you know, a fun word to use is cattywampus? What is that, Fred? What is that word? Something about that word. I don't like want to say it out loud. I feel, is that bait? What is that? Is it still playing, by the way? I think it ended, right? It's done? Okay. It means askew or disarray. All right, hold on. Let me look this up real quick. I thought that was a made-up word. Oh, holy shit. It seems like it is slang, though. Cattywampus. It's used in the Deep South. Means something that is in disarray, that is askew, or something that isn't directly across from something. This can refer to the decorations in a room, the position of a building, or someone's attire. That's how I feel. I feel cattywampus, bro. Am I saying it right? I don't even know if I'm saying it right. My jaw feels fucked up. Will MBG lift again? Will he? Tune into the next episode to find out. I know, Space Gambler. I tried everything. I could try one other thing here, see if this works. I'll do it for
Holy shit.
Okay, that worked. Yeah, it seems like my streaming software just glitched out a bit, as it seems to do frequently. I have to like manually turn it off and then turn it on again, and then it fixes it. So,
But that was some fancy shooting.
and there you go. Yeah.
You're
So
pretty good.
it just glitched out. It glitched out. Nothing I can really do. It's old-timey slang. All right. Where are we at? We're at the 2 hour and 41 minute mark. I'll let it go to 2 hours and 45, and that's where I'll end the stream. So again, just a reminder to anybody who has a membership badge, the members lounge is going to go up. I don't know what we're going to be discussing in the members lounge. I'm sure we'll find out together. You never know where we're going to go in the members lounge. Never know what kind of turn, which street we're going to turn down. But if you have a members badge, look out for that. The members lounge goes up about 5 to 10 minutes after the regular stream ends. And we're going to hang out there. And so I will also use this opportunity to let you guys know going forward, we should be doing more members lounge episodes. I can't promise that they're all going to have like necessarily themes, because again, if I do them more frequently, but if you are a member, that's where we're going to go. That's where we're going to have some conversations. That's where we're going to watch some shit. And yeah, it should be good times ahead. That's what I'm hoping. Especially as we get closer into the showcase season. I'm trying to end the stream though at like an even 2 hours and 45 minutes. That'd be great. We're going to talk about my new dentures. Yeah, that's what we're going to talk about. Mickey Mouse level mystery. Nope, that's still bait, Matt. But I do want to thank you guys for all of your support. I hope you enjoyed today's show. I hope you enjoyed the stream. I enjoyed talking to you guys about these topics. And we'll have another show ready to go tomorrow with a new topic of discussion. For those who are not going to join us in the members lounge or who can't, there will be a regular show tomorrow. Same time, same place. And yeah, just hit that like button for me. Shout out to you guys for getting us up to 72 members on the day. It's a huge milestone. Really big support. And to everybody who donated a super chat, thank you guys as well. Really appreciate it. I am fan funded here. I can only do this because you guys make it possible. Fred is saying, here's one for your MEG. You can say over yonder when people ask for directions. Yeah, I've heard that one before. Over yonder. Over yonder. All right, we got about 30 seconds here. All right, who's dropping those last 3 memberships? You got 30 seconds. I'm just kidding. I'm going to see you guys in the members lounge. And also, almost forgot, shout out to Devil Shooter for doing the timestamps. Really appreciate what you do for the channel, Devil Shooter. I know a lot of people appreciate that as well and take advantage of those timestamps. So, guys, hit that like button as you're filing out of this stream. And again, look out for the members lounge. It's going up in approximately 5 minutes. And I will catch you over there. And to everybody else, I will catch you guys tomorrow in the next show. So until then, take care, everyone. Damn, I think I timed this perfect.